Welcome to Cars on Call. I am automotive journalist Steve Judson. I'm here along with trauma surgeon Stephan Moran, automotive collector, consultant, and expert Adams Hudson. And before we do anything, this is the Mustang show.
That's right, baby.
Why would it be the Mustang show, Stephen?
April 17th, 1964, at the New York World's Fair. There was a world introduction of a new pony car called the Mustang. Ford brought it out. It just went bonkers. People went crazy for it. And that was 60 years ago. So we're going to talk Mustangs, man. 60th birthday. You got to have a 60th birthday party. And
Yes,
this is going to be a party. Thinking about this, one of our origin stories was Stephan's talking about his mom and a Mustang. And the Mustang the original Mustang was built on the Ford Falcon platform. And when you think of a mom with young kids, you think of a Ford Falcon back then, not a Mustang. So, Stephan, talk about that and go through the launch, the early days of the Mustang. Talk Mustang, man. You're the Mustang guy.
Well, now I own a Mustang, but let me pull up a picture here. Bear with me. I got to find this picture. Here we go. So I was born in France. Dad's American, mom's French. We moved to America in 1963. And then Dad came back to America. He's a pilot. And that's not my mother there. And you see the little kid in the front, that's my little brother. That was Anique. She was a friend of my mother's who helped out with us. And that's me on roller skates in the background. And yes, those were roller skates with metal wheels. Your children have never been on those. You're very fortunate because you hit one little pebble and you bite the dust, man.
And not everybody, when they were doing their roller skates, not everybody wore helmets, Stephan.
Yeah, there's no helmets there, I can tell you. And then
As we can tell. Yep.
In the background, you can see a fastback Mustang in the top left corner and a Sunbeam Alpine. And our bicycles are strewn all over the place. But we're in Riverbend, South Carolina. And one of my very earliest memories from childhood, Eric and I are sitting in the back, and it was a blue Mustang with a white interior. It was a stick shift, of course. And my mother, having me from France, her car was a Chevy, the 2CV, which the Coccinelle. But it looks like a Beetle, but it's the French version of the Beetle, and it had no horsepower. And we're sitting in the back. Coming to our neighborhood, you had to take a left and to go to town. I think right went to the base out in the country road, but to get a little dodgy, to shoot to the left traffic one time, she came out of the neighborhood and she was a little bit hot on the gas and let the clutch out, and the wheels squealed and the car got sideways. And I remember my brother and I just laughing, and mother's going, ooh la la. And so it's one of my earliest memories. I can still see myself giggling in the back seat because mom was smoking the tires in this car.
I think at that moment you were vaccinated to be a Ford guy right then.
I think so. Yeah. She probably had a Gauloise in her other hand, well, no hand, Gauloise in the left hand on the steering wheel smoking, and us in the right hand of the stick. But yeah, so that, the Ford Mustang takes me way back. And then later on, my association with Jack Roush got me reinterested in the Mustang. But as Steve, as you said, I was inoculated with the Ford vaccine from day one. And I also had to say with pony cars, with muscle cars, that whole idea of a big V8, lots of horsepower, that's just something I've always really appreciated. But so let's talk about the Mustang, because this is the big 60th anniversary. And what's interesting about the Mustang is it came about an interesting time of our country. It's the early 60s. The boomers were getting to the age where they could afford stuff. The early boomers were post-World War II, but big demand among the young consumers. They wanted smaller, sporty cars. Remember, at this time, the late 50s cars, the 55 Chevy, 56 6, they were just these bloated monstrosities. And those are typical sedans. And there was the Corvette and the Thunderbird, and those cars were pretty successful. And Ford said, there's another niche that we need to get into. At the time, Lee Iacocca, younger people may not know the name Lee Iacocca, but a very famous man in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, hero. He recognized this demand and saw an opportunity to create a new kind of car that he would appeal to this market segment of young people wanting something sporty, but they got some kids. So he envisioned a stylish, affordable, performance-oriented car that would just capture the imagination of young buyers. And oh, by the way, have a back seat. Very important. And he wasn't going after a Corvette, but he knew he could get people into this car if it had a back seat. And do you guys know where the name Mustang came from? I read about this. I did not know this off the top of my head.
Nope.
One of the
rings a bell.
executive stylists on the team was John Najjar, and he was an aficionado of the P-51 Mustang fighter plane from World War II.
Ooh, wow.
Yep, and Jack Roush owned several P-51s, and he loves the Mustang as well. So Ford kind of wanted to keep costs down, rolling this car out. So as we mentioned, the Ford Falcon, the Mustang was based on the Ford Falcon. And then designer Donald Frey and Lee Iacocca worked together, and they created this car, and they nailed it. It was stylish, practical, had performance and affordability. So you get it with the straight six, or you get the V8. And on April 17th, it was unveiled at the New York Auto Fair. There's a picture of it right there. And then there's a picture of the fastback outside. So it came in convertible coupe and a fastback. They really nailed it with 3 different models that come out. A bunch of different engines and options. They got 22,000 orders were taken on the first day that it was available to order Mustang.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it just struck a chord, and when consumers, and became a culture icon. Amazingly, over the years, the Mustang has evolved to meet changing market demands, as well as regulatory requirements with exhaust and all that. But it stayed true to its original concept. It may have gone astray in some of the earlier years, but overall, it's maintained the concept. Stylish, performance-oriented car appeals to a wide range of consumers. You can get, the new Mustang with the 4-cylinder EcoBoost. Steve's got a comment here. Go ahead, Steve.
Before you move on, because I agree that it absolutely evolved successfully, and that's a key to its success all the way to today. But before we move on from the original, there's something I thought about like just now, and I want to share it because I think it's important. Lee Iacocca, there are certain people that are blessed with the ability to kind of sense the zeitgeist and understand what people want before they want it. Steve Jobs, of course, is the current day guy who did that. And Steve Jobs said, you work with what you think the customer wants, and you work backward to the technology. And I think that's what happened with Lee Iacocca. Lee Iacocca came to fame in 1956, and he came out with this sales strategy called 56 for 56.
Yeah.
And $56 a month, you get a 56 Ford, a 1956 Ford. And it connected. All of a sudden, people wanted to pay by the month. They didn't want to save up. And that changed the industry. And that really vaulted him to a big promotion. Well, it's the same with this. He knew, just like you said, a smaller car, youthful car, but he had to get it right. And he did, like Steve Jobs did with the iPhone.
Adam, you got a comment on that as well?
I do, because I've got you guys beat by a few years, and I actually was cognizant of automobiles when this car came out. And it's funny, Steph, when you were talking, a quick story, and I will make it brief. Me and my best friend in first grade, and we are still friends to this day. But our friendship was not fully based on automobiles because we were that young, but we both liked cars. We built model cars. We drew cars when we were supposed to be studying in class and all that stuff. And I remember his dad was super conservative. His family was. They had a dingy red Falcon in their gravel driveway in a relatively modest house, but just a fine house. I mean, it was we were friends. We played together all the time. And I remember that little dingy red Falcon. And when the Mustang came out, his dad was so enamored, and I mean instantly, went down and purchased for his wife, my friend's mother, a red Mustang coupe 6-cylinder. And we were like, wow, they have gotten a dose of cool right there. And it was one of the first ones. Like, people used to stare it down and flag him down and talk to him about it. 2 weeks later, he goes into the same dealership and gets a 289 A code black with the red pinstripe for himself.
From a Falcon to those two cars?
There are 2 of them in the driveway. And I just thought, okay, man, you're
that.
like one step away from being knighted in my book.
Yeah, my wife Ellen grew up, and her best friend from childhood's dad had a convertible Mustang, and he would take them to go get ice cream. And his young girls driving through Tuscaloosa with the University of Alabama, they just thought they were the coolest thing.
They were.
They were. Yeah, they really were. So the picture I got pulled up now, it shows the original concept Mustang, the lower part, then the 65, and then, of course, the Shelby GT350 in the background. So the first generation is considered 1964 to 1973. Sold over 1 million units in 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
God.
It's not a manufacturer alive that wouldn't want that across their entire model. No.
Yes. So from this generation, I'm gonna pick my two favorites. So of course, my favorite from the first generation is the Bullet. Here it is with Steve McQueen, and that's
What
the
year was that
68
car? Actually, 68. Okay.
68, yeah, 68 GT Fastback. And then there it is, the car.
That's the real one.
That is the real deal
movie.
movie. That is the one sold at auction. Now I have to give honorable mention from this year. There's the other one, the GT350 is. I think that is the best car from the first generation, without hands down. Is to me the coolest of that era. But I have to give honorable mention for one reason to the 69 Boss 429 Mustang, because it has the coolest production Ford motor Ford ever made. And here's a picture of the engine. It is just an unbelievable engine with these giant valve covers underneath there. It's truly a racing engine. And that to me is,
they couldn't have made that a 430 if they'd tried. There's not another edge.
Yeah. And then by 1973, the cars really gotten bloated. And here's one of my worst of that generation. Here's a 1973 Mach 1. It's just bloated. It's big. It just has lost a lot of the coolness factor. And they were drifting away by 1973.
Yeah.
Second generation is considered 1974 to 1978.
And these are some of your favorites, right?
There we go. And so you can see we went from this giant bloated behemoth of a Mustang to now gas is getting pricey. We got safety emission standards. They couldn't get horsepower out of engines. So sales started to decline, oil crisis. So they came out with the Mustang 2. So here's a picture of Mustang 2 with a vinyl top. It is just bad. Now we talked about this. Okay. It gets worse. But they sold a lot of these. I mean,
they did.
They sold a lot because for the time, everybody wishes they would. Yeah, they called it the Mustang 2. But everybody wishes kind of like the Mach E now. They didn't have the E attached. But here's the worst of the worst.
Before you say anything, this was bad not just because the performance was lacking and they were ugly, but the Falcon was a decent car to base a sports car on. It was actually a pretty good platform. The Mustang 2 was based on the Pinto.
Yes, sir.
So here, listeners, I've got a picture of the King Cobra up with the big motor, but it's got Ford's version of the Trans Am Screaming Chicken across the front, and it's just horrible. But and then here it is in the black version, the Cobra 2. And I think
even the good-looking cowgirl cannot save that car.
Yeah.
No, exactly. So we're going to move through that. So the next generation is the 1979 to 1983. These are what are known as the Fox body Mustangs. And they changed the platform. They went back to the Fox. And they had all different kinds. They had coupe, hatchbacks. They had convertibles. And they went back to some high performance models like the GT and the iconic SVO that came in. So let's see here. I think I've got, next generation. So here's the fourth generation, which in the Ford world is called the SN95 generation. I know you BMW guys, and
I know you said you meant 93.
Yeah, yes.
You said 83. It went to 1993.
I'm sorry,
the Fox body.
Yes, yes, the Fox body. So here's the 1994. This was called the SN95. More modern design. Some people like to call these the Jelly Bean Mustangs. This is when all the curves were very soft. They sold well though, and in 1999 they actually revised this Fox body. I'm sorry, they revised this Mustang, made the edges sharper, and it became what are called the New Edge Mustangs. So there's a New Edge Mustang picture. So they got rid of some of the roundness, added some more sharpness to it, like the originals.
When did New Edge launch, Steph? When did you say that?
The New Edge was 1999.
Okay.
Yep, 99. That's it. And the big difference, I like the 99s
Yeah, I
a
do
lot.
too.
Pre-99, I don't like it, but I do like the 99 Mustang version. Let's see what else I got here. I think,
And you can see as you're going through this pictorial history, they're coming back to themselves.
there, yes, exactly. Yep, it makes it easy. So then we move into the let's see, is this one right here? I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah. So, and the picture I have up here is the best of this generation. This is the SVT Cobra, known as the Terminator. It was supercharged V8. I mean, they really, this is where they got back to the roots, that this is a pony car. We're putting some horsepower in it. This thing could handle. These are highly collectible Mustangs. And then, yeah, we're going to move to the fifth generation, which came out in 2005, 2014. Didn't I had, Steve, you remember, wasn't Mays involved with this time as a designer at Ford?
Yes.
Yes. He came back in.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is the fifth generation, the 2005-14. Really marked the big return to retro styling, drawing heavily on the design from the 60s Mustangs. Very well received. And this really revitalized interest once again in the Mustang brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a picture of the Shelby GT 500 from this generation.
In the fabulous grabber blue. How can you go
Yes.
wrong?
Yeah.
Yes. And then here's the 2012, the Boss versions. I don't know about that black one. The Boss 301 they brought back in this version as well. Let's see what we got next in terms of pictures. Oh, we're gonna
What might that be?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, wait a minute. Let's see here. If I don't want to get my time. Yeah.
Was
Okay,
that black?
so
The black red one was called like the Black Widow, I think.
I
with the
think so.
red
Yeah.
highlights.
Just a little bit. It does not appeal to me at all. It's kind of
Agreed.
garish. And then we're going to move into the sixth generation, which started in 2015. That's called the S550 generation, which is what I have. And once again, more modern, more aggressive design, improved performance and handling, going back to roots once again, continuing that trend. And this is also the very first Mustang to be sold globally, including markets like Europe and Asia. So it was a big deal when they came out, the S550.
Show that
And
lovely unit.
And then there we go. Here's my favorite of this generation, the Bullet version. First one was done by Ford asked Jack Roush to do the first one in 2008. There were some performance upgrades, but each Bullet that has come out has had more packaging in terms of power performance. And the reason I picked the Bullet is it's the Mustang for everybody that wants a Mustang but doesn't want to be seen in a Mustang, because there's no Ford badges, there's no whale tail on the back, there's no ponies on the side, there's no 50 on the side. You just have one Bullet logo in the back on the outside of the car, and that's it. So I picked that as the best of this generation.
And is that a 2019 or 20? What is that?
Mine's a 2019. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So there. And then we're going to move into the newest generation, the S650, which is the seventh generation evolution of the S550. And they introduced a new special Mustang called the Dark Horse. So we've had the Bullet, we've had the 301, we've had the Boss, we've had the Mach 1. And they continue to modernize it, unlike Chevy and Dodge, that Ford has not bailed out of the V8, and they continue to move forward with the V8 and the Mustang. And I think I like the Dark Horse a lot. I think it looks great. It is an evolution. A little sharper angles than me. A little bit sharper on the angles than I prefer. And the front end's a little bit busy, but overall, I think it's a great car. And then I'm going to show you the worst Mustang. There we go. Here, this is a Winston County,
Mustang
Alabama. Yeah, this is the Winston County special. I actually took this picture myself. So this is a fox-bodied Mustang sitting jacked up, listeners, like 5 feet. If you're not watching, like 5 feet up in the air on giant off-road tires. It's just atrocious.
It's
But kind of summarizing things, throughout its history, the Mustang has been celebrated for performance, style, culture, and really cemented its status as one of the most iconic cars in world automotive history, if not U.S. history. And I'm so glad that they continue. Ford is going to the bitter end, there's going to be a Ford Mustang, which is fabulous.
Great run through. And I tell you, that car was really within our landscape of just not car culture, but social culture. I mean, there were songs sung about the Mustang. There have been Mustang only, not just Ford, but Mustang only car clubs almost probably since inception, and they're still going strong. Mustang magazines, Mustang memorabilia. It's just an amazing piece of American history.
It's youthful. It is affordable. It is easy to buy, easy to get fixed, easy to work on yourself. This thing has always been great. You do all viewers, Stephan, a great favor if you change the picture that's up there. But I think a couple things need to be said. There are some negative aspects or negative parts of the history of the Mustang. And I'm not just talking about the Mustang 2, which everyone knows is just terrible. But Ford did make some serious mistakes. One was they killed the Mustang and they were going to replace it with a front wheel drive Mustang. And the clubs that Adams just talked about heard about this and they said, fuck no. They didn't say no. They said, fuck no. And they wrote and they wrote and they called and they said, you will not do this to the Mustang. They went crazy. And of course, this all happened. We didn't even know it was happening. Yes, it was a probe. So Ford, to their credit,
only a proctologist could love.
Yeah, to their credit, Ford listened and they did not kill the Mustang. But it must be at least said that they decided to kill it, and then they brought it back. It wasn't like they were on the fence. They had decided to kill it, and they brought it back. So that's one thing. Another thing is, for God knows what reason, they alienated your man, Carroll Shelby, and they drove him into the arms of Chrysler in the 80s, where he stayed for like almost 20 years, about 15 years he was with Chrysler. And then they finally woke up and said, geez, he's kind of an icon himself. Maybe we bring him back. That was another mistake.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know who the CEO was the time when they thought about bringing the probe, Steve-O? I can't recall who had been CEO at that time.
I think
it had to be a bean counter CEO.
Yeah, I think it was Philip Caldwell. And he was, I think, I hadn't thought about that, but whoever it was.
Lest we forget, in the vaulted history of Porsche, they darn near did the same thing with the 911 until a man sharing your surname decided that wasn't going to happen. So
right. And one of the reasons that Peter should save the 911 was not just the customers loved it, the people in the company loved it. And I think that's what happened with Ford. People in the company, I'm sure these engineers they were told, all right, now you're going to work on a front wheel drive Mustang. And they're like, oh shit, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I wonder how active the Ford Probe Club is now. That's a car I haven't seen on the road.
They all got aboard spaceships where they're continuing to be probed.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, there's no probe. Yeah, it's just embarrassing. There's no way that was a Mustang. Just like there's no way the Mach-E is a Mustang. So
yeah.
So the Mustang, before we move into different aspects of Mustang, and again, this is a Mustang party. We are going to be Mustang 60th birthday. This is awesome. Let's talk about current and the Mustang. You hit on this, Stephan, and it's true. It continues to sell. It is not going to be selling 1 million units in a year and a half, but it still does pretty well. And if we bring up the new Mustang, it sold about 14,000 units in the first quarter of this year. You multiply that times 4, you get a good number, about 60,000. And it outsold the Camaro, 14,000 to 3,500, and it outsold the Challenger, 14,000 to 9,700. And the Challenger and Camaro are being killed off, actually killed off, not just talking about it. So the Mustang sells very well. It continues to be popular. I see them around. I think they look great. So the new version is doing really well. There's some pictures that shows the interior. Very nice interior. It's modernized, has a very digital screen, and it's got another screen, for all your touchscreen stuff. Continues to proudly offer a manual transmission. The Corvette does not. The Camaro still does, but again, the Camaro's dying. This is a wonderful, wonderful car, and it does continue to sell. So that's the news on the new Mustang front. This is a popular car, and it continues to. It has perennially been a big seller. There, we've got a picture. I had to show a picture of the Challenger with the Hellcat because, my gosh, I love that car, and it's going away.
Yeah.
That's a great car, but to a degree, the Mustang is the one that put it away. There's
Yeah,
only X number of pony car buyers out there, and Mustang said, "I'm taking most of them."
yeah, yeah. Yes, that's completely true. Well, Stefan talked about some of the really historical Mustangs that are great. We all love. From the collector standpoint, Adams, what are the best? What do you think about collectability?
I think, almost every generation, save for that one that we will not mention again, has great collectability within it. And what I did, instead of picking what I think are maybe the top appreciators, but I picked a few from different categories, different era. Boom, bang. Let's get started off with the rocket here.
The OG.
Here's where it started. This is the 1965. This is a GT configuration. You can tell by the fog lamps in the front end. You've got the side stripe, which was an option.
By the way, I love those fog lights. I think
I do
my
too.
Mustang, I think my Bullet would look great with those. I love them. Oh my God, I love
completely
them so
agree.
much.
Put that on your Christmas list because we all agree with that. And this has got the 10-spoke optional wheels. I mean, this is a highly optioned car. It is a fastback. And I picked this one because I chose my first two picks of the five are really kind of like identical twins separated at birth. And this is the one that's sort of like a little bit more well-mannered. This would have been a K code. So a K code in Mustang lore, you've got the A code, which is 2.25 horse, 289. Then the K code is a 271 horse. Is that? Yeah, 271 horse, solid lifter car. And that is a really collectible car. And it's basically, and I'm probably going to get hate mail for this, but it's like 3/4 of a Shelby for about 1/3 the price. So this is like as blue chip as you're going to get in the whole pony car world right here. And that's probably a $75,000 to $90,000 car right there. You can pay over 100 if you want for one that's like a 100-point car you don't want to drive, but you're going to pay up for this car. But the next one is the other car separated, sent off to Uncle Carol Shelby's speed shop for tuning. You can say it's got the R model wheels. Of course, it's got the racing stripes, Wimbledon white with the Shelby blue Le Mans stripes. And that would have been a car punched up. And it's funny that the horsepower difference, the 271 was a street version. This was 306 horsepower. So you're talking barely sub 5 second 0 to 60, which was killer at the time. And these cars just rocked it in racing. And his design parameters were basically go beat the Corvette. That's what he was supposed to do. And he said, got it. So he puts better exhaust, better brakes. That car right there is in the $400,000 range. So you're going to pay way up for the Shelby version. But if that's what you want in your collection, that's what you got it. So those first two share a similar niche and greatly different price ranges. And this next one is very different. And this is a car Steph's already talked about. So I'll sort of breeze through. The Boss 9, they called it, which was the 429 motor jammed in the front of that car. And he showed a great photo of the engine compartment. They actually, boys and girls, this is not just an engine transplant. They had to cut the inner shock towers to let that big old motor, what they call the semi-Hemi, and not only does it rhyme, but it really is like engineeringly accurate. This was their way to get a NASCAR homologated big block on the track in NASCAR. So they jammed it in an unsuspecting Mustang body so they could sell enough of them to satisfy the sanctioneers. To me, and Stephan did not mention it, but I love that hood scoop. It's like you could get a decent Amazon package in that thing. It's just super cool. And it's a big old fat motor putting out a watt of horsepower. It was factory rated at 375 horse, which everybody then and now knows is a complete joke, to which the insurance companies were not privy. It's probably a 500 horsepower motor with about 500 foot-pounds of torque. Ton of weight.
I drove Jack Roush's number 429 Boss 429. And
That's
when I was
wait, his serial number is
it's
429.
his number is the 429 produced. Yep.
No.
That's pretty
429.
cool. Only
And
Jack pulled it
it
off.
actually really, I was impressed at how well it drove. It actually had brakes. They had to do a lot to this car to make it, but it was an absolute hoot to drive. I mean, just you give it gas, watch your front end come up. It was a blast, drove very nice, sounded fantastic, and it pulls really nicely.
I don't know if I've ever heard one run, but I would imagine it is a menace on the street. They made them in 69 and 70. They made about 1,400 of them, a little bit less than. And
Before you leave that car, it's funny how the pendulum swings, right? In the late 60s, I think maybe 1972, 70 also. A lot of the manufacturers were sandbagging their numbers. For insurance reasons, they did not want the insurance company to know how much power they had, so they sandbagged. Well, the flip side is in the early 2000s, you guys remember this, Ford got sued because people put their Cobras, not their Cobras, the whatever they called it, they put the special version
The SVTs.
Mustangs, I guess it would be the SVTs. They put them on dynos, and they had overhyped the horsepower numbers. So they got sued by owners saying, "Hey, you promised, I think 375 or 400 horsepower, and it doesn't have that much." So they got sued. So it's the opposite.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, you're right. The pendulum does swing back. One was a marketing ploy to sell, and the other one was like a don't tell the insurance company.
Right. Yeah.
I guess it's whoever they think the audience is. But that particular car, I guess, it would be currently about a 400 grand car. So you have to be a pretty serious collector to jump in on that. Unlike this next Boss. Oh, there's the motor jammed in there, but that's similar to Stephan. You can look how close the shock towers are to the side of that motor.
So I was at a car show in Knob Noster, Missouri back in 1993, and a guy had a Boss 429 then, and he had taken the valve covers off and put a light polish on them. It was gorgeous. I mean, fantastic. And his car was worth money back then, but not like what it is today. But yeah, it's a beautiful engine.
Well, if you ever want to change the plug on that side, you have to remove the front wheel. You have to go through the inner fender. And the next one is a different version of a Boss. I know that we're going to go, because that's the bigger body one. That is not the one that people think of when they think of the Svelte Mustang. This is what Steph called, was this the second gen? Is that what second gen?
Yes.
And this was a 1 year only. So this is a 1971 Boss 351. And this was a pretty hopped up car, and it's a little bit longer, a little bit wider, and it is considered like a bigger body. It's not that much heavier, but it is a high revving, small block car, 50 horsepower more than the then current Boss 302, which is also a great collectible car. I like this one because it's 1 year only, and for about 65 grand, you can pick up one of these, and so that kind of puts it in a more reasonable price range. And I think they can look pretty good, maybe lose the spoiler and a little bit of graphics, but I think it kind of represents the era, and I like this car. And
I like
It
it
has
too.
a 351 Cleveland in it, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
My first Cobra replica had the 351 Cleveland, which is really a gorgeous. It's like the 429. It's got very large heads on it that come all the way out. So in a Cobra that is normally supposed to have a big block Ford and FE motor, the Cleveland actually looks right in that versus a Windsor or a small block or a 5.0, which just they don't fill up the front end of a Cobra enough. But the Cleveland comes pretty damn close. And it's a beautiful engine.
Totally agree. And Cleveland refers to where it was built versus Windsor, Ontario, where the other one was built. Not that their location made a lot of difference, but that's how Ford delineates which is which. And this is like Stephan was talking about. This is a big valve head, higher revving, and it's the motor a Pantera should have. And if you have a Pantera, you can juice it up to Cleveland specs, and you will do yourself a big, big favor. But that's a decently affordable car that I think is pretty cool. And the next one, I'm sorry,
Before you leave that one, I like that. I actually have over the years, I'm less down on this generation of Mustang. It is bloated, but everything's relative. I remember hating the Jaguar XJS because it was so bloated, and I saw one yesterday, and it's actually pretty small. You compare it to like a Camry now, which is a big bloated sedan. These cars from the 70s are not that big anymore. I like this design. I don't know if you guys remember the Charles Bronson movie, The Mechanic, but he drove this car in that movie. And it looked really cool. I thought it was cool. I think it was very, bell bottoms, long hair, mustache, 70s,
Yeah, yeah. I don't disagree with you, Steve. I dislike exactly on your XJS point, disliked it, sort of look at it now and go, that car's not that big. It seemed huge at
It's
the
not.
time.
Yeah, it's not.
Same with this. We're going to jump up a few years with the next pick. We've already, again, Stefan's already sort of pulled the curtain back because we did not compare notes. He picked a lot of the cars that I'm picking now. And this is the 93 Cobra SVT, end of the trail for the Fox body car. And I like this. I don't get it with the black wheels. I'm not super sure if that was even stock. It probably is not. But this is a car that they'd really tightened up and worked on the front fascia, the side skirts, the rear fascia. They had tried to make it look a little bit more European, if I can go ahead and use that phrase, because that's what was selling in the day. And Ford of Europe was doing great things aerodynamically. They tried a few things over here that did not work, but this one I think works. They gave it actual brakes that work. They SVT breathed on the motor. GT40 heads doesn't mean it came from a GT40. That's what they called them. Larger throttle bodies. And I think Stephan, you're probably about to get me corrected on this one. I think the base one was like 310 horse, and this is 335, somewhere in that range. Am I close?
Yeah, I can't remember, honestly.
But this is a hot car, and this is an interesting car. It is the last and the best of this particular breed. And I think a SVT Mustang is going to be, I don't know, in the 65 grandish will cover one up. And I mean a very, very nice one. You could probably get one with a few miles. My advice, if you got 50 grand laying around, you're thinking, where can I park it? In a car I would actually drive to go somewhere. This is reliable enough, it's cool enough, it's sporty enough. You'll be welcomed at any Cars and Coffee you ever wanted to go to and have a good time getting there. Get one with a few miles on it, 40 to 60,000 miles. And for 50 grand, you can get a terrific car that will not cost you to own it. I just about would put that in writing because these cars are just going up.
Yeah.
And the next one, and we will turn this out. I think I think there's probably one person in the crowd on the COC board of directors here who's going to appreciate this choice. I really believe in the Bullet. I love everything about it. It doesn't overstate itself. It's not trying to flaunt anything it's not. It is just cool and reserved, and it nails it. It delivers on it's not over-promising one thing, but it's over-delivering on anything it states.
Oh, well said. That's the way exactly I feel about that car.
It's a good one. And you told us, you educated us a few episodes back, Steph, about the difference between a 2019 and a 2020. And was that it for this particular Bullet era, just those 2 years?
That's it.
Okay. And there was something different in the automatic transmission. There was something I missed.
Well, the GT350 got the Tremec transmission.
Okay. Yeah.
The Bullet did not get the Tremec transmission. And that's the one thing that if I could have differently in my car, having driven my friend's GT350, that Tremec transmission, my transmission is nice. Okay. But when you get in a Mustang with the Tremec, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really nice.
I can't remember what yours is. That's not a Graziano box. What is that?
It's one of the Chinese boxes. It's in the same
Okay.
the same boxes that as all the other Mustangs.
Gotcha. Well, I just think this is a heck of a car. Another one you could put in your garage with pride, keep it up, maintain it up, and probably never lose a dime. I just think this is money well spent on a fun car.
Yeah, one on Bring a Trailer, I think 8,000 miles sold for sticker price, basically. I mean, close to sticker. I mean, so a little bit under sticker, but I mean, not a lot of loss of valuation in that time. So, all right.
Those are cool. I like how they, just like the one Stephan went through, you can kind of picture the time, what the time was like just by looking at the Mustang. I think it's so interesting. Well, Mustangs were very successful in racing too. We don't want to forget that. And Stephan, you have a list of some racing Mustangs of note, and boy, they have a great history of racing.
Yeah, I'm not going to deep dive on this because I could spend all day. And I know for those of you out there that are true Mustang fans, especially racing fans, you're gonna be disappointed I don't talk about NASCAR and funny car and all that. But I'm just gonna kind of stick with some of the Mustangs that were still truly street cars converted to racing cars, not these kind of one-offs. But let me pull up the most famous of all. This is actually Ken Miles and using the famous number 98. And this is the Mustang that he actually, this is called the Flying Mustang. This is on St.
Boy, is it.
Valentine's Day, 1965. He won this is the very first race ever won by a Mustang, a GT350, one of Carroll Shelby's by Ken Miles, the Green Valley Raceway in Texas. The Mustangs went on to win the Tour de France in 1964, 1965. The GT350 took drivers to B production national championships in 1965, 1966, 1967. A little bit of a gap, and then Parnelli Jones should be a name many people should recognize, and George Fulmer and Bud Moore's Boss 302 won the 1970 Trans Am Championship by 1 point. The next championship was Dorsey Schroeder and Trans Am in 1989. They won GT class in 85, I think, 86 and 88. And then famously, Paul Newman in car number 70 at the age of 70 placed third in the 24 Hours of Daytona. Throw in there, of course, Jack Roush was involved with those Trans Am championships. And I think, the other thing I did not mention was Ford had a huge drag racing presence. And these pony cars, the Camaro, the Chargers, the Challengers, and the Mustangs, what people really like to do with these was street race them or go to the local drag strip. And so there was a huge presence of all the manufacturers at the local drag strips, but Ford won a lot of drag racing. And that's how Jack Roush got his start, was drag racing Fords. So I just kind of blew through all the different racing. There's more of that, they've won in, Ford has won in NASCAR. So that's all. I didn't want to dive too deep in there. Let's see.
Well, you could about do a full episode on just the Ford racing, Mustang racing.
Exactly. Yes. Then I did.
Yeah, I thought it'd be cool.
I didn't want to bore everybody too much.
I thought it'd be cool just to, and yeah, I agree. We could do a whole hour, and I know our listeners are not really into racing. We could do a whole hour on racing, but I thought we should all just pick our favorite ones, and I'll go first just because this is one that had a huge influence on middle America, and this is John Force. John Force for decades raced a Mustang with a Castrol GTX livery. And for decades and years, he's a great guy, very, very likable. He did so much for Ford. And this is very, middle Ohio, middle Indiana, Texas. This is middle America. And if you're really honest about it, this is really who buys Fords. You go down a road in Kentucky, a residential road, you're going to find Mustangs. These are drag racing fans, and John Force and those Mustangs had a huge influence. So it's kind of my favorite. My favorite, though, really was in the early 80s. I used to go to Lime Rock Park in Connecticut, and I'd watch IMSA racing. And this is the one I remember the most. It's the Miller Time Zach Speed IMSA GT race car. Klaus Lodewijk used to drive this. I know. And Klaus Lodewijk used to drive this, and it was so cool. It was very successful. It's basically a DTM car from Germany that they brought over here, but it did very well, and it also raised their profile. This is what they raced before Jack Roush came along. When Jack Roush took over and started racing the Mustangs and the Mercury Capris, which is the same thing, he just took over and dominated. This is before Ford really was dominant. This is what led them to Roush. They said, okay, this works for us. Klaus Lodewijk, this Miller Time thing. This is definitely getting kind of BMW owners to think about Mustang. Let's do this more. And it led to Jack Roush. So that's why this is my favorite.
Nice.
That is a terrific hinge point, Steve. I was not even aware that was pre-Jack Roush, but I remember those cars with, I guess they call silhouette racers, with the boxed-in fenders. They were 2 inches off the ground, side exhaust, and they competed on a world stage.
Yep. Very cool. It's Miller time.
What's your favorite one, Stefan?
Oh, back to my
The Miles one, right? I guess the Miles.
Yeah, the Ken Miles, the Flying
Yeah.
Mustang.
Okay.
The GT350 is my favorite of all the racing Mustangs. It just,
And
it's that.
Adams.
I'm sticking with your pick right there.
Oh, cool.
That's a dual pick. I mean, I just like, really, because the Mustang nameplate, I think it's fair to say, had sort of tarnished itself. It was absent from the public. It was not selling super well. And as far as are we moving on to dream fantasy pick Mustangs? Because
this was the
Yes.
Steve was saying your favorite race car. I thought, oh, that's not. I thought that was your favorite race car. I didn't see your favorite. Do you have a did you send me a favorite race car?
I didn't send you a favorite race car, but I
I
just
saw mine and agreed.
So
okay, all right,
Okay.
good.
You saw mine
All
and
right.
agreed. So that's kind of it for race cars, and of course they had a really good, obviously, history, and they still do. But Adams, you had the idea of coming up with our dream kind of Mustang, and you kind of configure in your own mind this dream Mustang from the past, and talk about that and how you got the idea and what your favorite is, Adams.
Well, we've covered so much ground here. We're just looking back at such a rich and storied history in every possible facet of, sales and performance and matching the era, a little bit of downturn, and then the resurgence and the renaissance of the Mustang as we know it today. And it just seemed like it'd be fun to go back through the catalog. If you were like drop down in time and you could go back and pick your car. So you can do a fantasy pick of a Mustang you would like. Could be a today pick, but the history books are rife with wonderful choices that we think, oh man, if only I could go back in time and pick that car. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go and pick as if we were present in the then current era and checking boxes on an order sheet.
I obviously got it wrong.
Adams, what's yours? Go.
I've got mine. Okay. Stefan, are you out of this competition?
Well, mine's different. I have to go back and read the email again. Anyway,
no, it's okay. Honestly, all we're doing really is we're picking a Mustang from the past that we kind of create in our own minds and saying, this is my dream Mustang. So that's all you have to do. I'm sure you have one.
Okay. Oh yeah, I got one.
Yeah. You're good.
You want me to go? You want to go first and sort of?
You go. Here you go. And boom, you're up.
There you go. Well, there was the inspiration for mine, and this would be a 69. That particular one is a GT500. I am not a big block fan. I'm neither a convertible fan. So I like small blocks. I like the fact that they're less prone to overheat. There's less weight over the front wheels, which is like not a good place to have a whole lot of weight in a rear drive car. So this is the body style that I love. The driving lamps, what they call the Le Mans lamps, are one of my favorite features, and you can have them outboard or inboard. I prefer the inboards. So the very one that I picked is actually that same year. Kaboom! Thank you. It's largely the color that got me. I want to get a 67 Shelby Mustang GT350 in what they called Gulfstream Aqua.
Wow.
And just give me a regular conventional hood pull and a latch. I don't need the pins. I just don't really even fully understand that even of the day. I guess it saved 3 ounces on a catch, but you put 2.5 ounces back in the cables. And it's just the color and that body style. It's before they got so bloated in that second gen. This to me with the side scoops, fake or not, I do not care. That raised sort of NACA scoop that sits in the side, the little kicked up spoiler in the rear. I just think this body style was kind of it for me. Not as raw as the first, not as bloated as the second. Yeah, I think some of the modern ones are fantastic, but this is the one I'd like to see in my garage.
I love that.
I love it. That the Ford, the Gulfstream Aqua, the Acapulco Blue. Ford did some fantastic blues throughout the history, and I have to agree with you. Wouldn't this car bring a trailer? We saw this car somewhere for sale. I remember this color. Maybe you sent me the color, but
I think there was one, Steph. I was looking in the photo archives trying to find a good representative, and there were a couple on Bring a Trailer. This particular one was at a dealership, but you see them, and if you do a search for that color, you'll see them, and I don't know, just to me, it hits me right between the eyes. The color, the era, the style, all of it.
Beautiful. Love it.
That's a
Good choice.
great. I love that pick, and it's the epicenter of the muscle car era, and this would have been absolutely just a beast to own. A GTO or 442. It's got nothing on this car.
Right.
All right, Stefan. Now I'm curious.
Okay, so I should go back and read this email here. Because I'm gonna read this email from Steve-O. And if I can find the damn thing, here it is. Here's the email. Let me read this. It says,
It's actually I just pasted what Adams sent
it
me.
said build
now it's
cheap
coming back
fantasy
on
pick.
me.
No, it's not
We
bad.
each
It's
pick a
good.
Mustang from the past or present and build it for us with specific option wheels. Okay, to build. Well, I interpreted that as I'm building that car now. I'm not going back
Oh.
in time. You see?
Oh no, it's new. So
So,
you're
yeah,
up a
I
new
don't
one?
remember what's the phrase? Time travel?
No. I'm building my fantasy Mustang.
Okay.
I'm
well,
not going
Is it a new
back.
car or an old car?
No, it's an old car.
Okay, so that's good. Show it. That's
Yeah.
good.
So,
so Stefan picked an old car, but he transposed himself into the future to pick new options on an old car. Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
no, just what I
If
meant.
it's an old
surprise.
car,
now here we
go
go.
for it.
So
You're picking it now. I like it. Go for it.
All right. Here we go. I gotta find it.
I think it's going to be good.
Well, you know, as long as
it's
we're
gonna
talking
be-
fantasy, it's within the rules. So
Yeah,
go for it.
that's right.
So it is fantasy. All right.
All right.
So let me. What the hell here? All right. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to share this. So I like
You know, just hearing you
Adams.
build this up, Steph, I'm almost relieved you're not writing prescriptions anymore. But go ahead.
So I love the '67 Fastback.
Yeah.
And
That's a twofer right there. Okay.
so a '67 Fastback Mustang. But what Chip Foose did, I watched the show. Chip
You
Foose.
barely see it, so I think you have to make it bigger.
Let me make
it's
it
kind
bigger. All right.
It's kind of hidden.
All right, make it bigger. Is that bigger?
Well, the whole page because it's
Oh, the whole page. All right.
Hit that little green dot.
Oh, let me.
Yeah, the green
let me start over again. All right, screen share. Where's it at? Here it is.
There it is. Beautiful.
So what Chip
That
Foose
is.
did was he talked on the show. What he did with this car was he said, "I'm going to take the '67 Fastback Mustang, but I'm going to make it like it's the show car for the next generation Mustang coming out." So he did some things. He pulls in the bumpers. He tightens up the bumpers. He molds the scoops in on the side into the car so they don't look tacked on. So it's like he just went over the car and just refined it. So that would be this would be the body. And then I would put what's called a new, you can put a new frame on the Mustang. So basically what they do is you buy this frame that's got a independent rear suspension, totally new front suspension, and they set this unitized body in the frame of this. So now you've got a '67 car that's got 2024 handling characteristics. And then for the engine, I'm going to put in I'm putting in the Voodoo, the 5.2 cross-plane crank motor from Ford, crank
Nice.
motor.
Yeah.
And for
Is
the
the
wheels,
Voodoo is not supercharged, correct? That's
Correct.
normally aspirated.
normally
Okay.
aspirated. And I'm going to go with some original Shelby style wheels right here that you can see in this picture. And then let's see, here is a picture. There's a nice picture of the wheel, what it looks like.
Nice.
And then the let's see, the color. I gotta go back over here. I'm gonna do Brittany blue, which is a lighter blue, a little more of a silver blue, a beautiful blue. I'm gonna do a blue leather interior. It's gonna have that crate Voodoo. Putting in a Tremec 5-speed out of the GT350, and it'll have the speed
The
tech
Brittany
channel frame.
blue, Steph, was that, you're saying a lighter silver blue? Is that what a Cobra would have been? Princess blue? Is that sort of a similar color?
Yeah, exactly. I'll pull up a Brittany blue Mustang.
Yeah,
for
no,
you.
this is the color that Britney Spears chose.
We're just trying to get our facts straight.
There's Brittany blue.
There you
Which is
go.
very similar to a Princess blue, is a little bit lighter.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
So-
terrific. Once
Now
again, those
there-
lights.
There is a place called Revelage or Revelage. I don't know how they pronounce it, but they basically make brand new old Mustangs. But this puppy comes in at about $254,000
Mm.
Yeah.
all in. I'd rather start, if I'm going to spend that kind of cashola, I'm going to find an original body, I'm going to upgrade it because it will maintain its original VIN number. So that
That's a
that was
perfect.
how.
I love it. The chip boost body, I love that. The engine,
Yep.
of course, is fantastic. I think that's a great build. I love everything about that.
Because you drive the '67 Mustang, it drives like a '67 Mustang.
Yeah.
And but boy, to have 2024 pinnings underneath, suspension independent rear, and a crate motor, and then I'd have seat belts in it and nice comfortable seats with ball coolers. I mean, you could have what you want, and I would drive the hell out of that thing. And
Yep.
people would look at it and go, "Oh, there goes an old Mustang." So they look closer, like, "Wait a minute." So that's my fantasy.
Yeah.
You said fancy. That's a fancy. That's my fantasy Mustang.
That's a
Yeah,
good fantasy because that's one, unlike the one that I picked, which, it doesn't matter. I'd go with the vintage one and just sort of park it and drive it occasionally. That's one you could literally take cross country without concern.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, the daily drive it. Well, I kind of picked one. My fantasy was kind of like yours, Stefan, similar but different. And I wanted a Fox body. So this is a
Wow.
notchback resto mod Fox body. I wanted something like this, black. I did want black wheels. I wanted kind of the black on black look. This also would have a crate motor, but I'm not going to be quite so. I don't know what the word is. Intense. I don't know. I'm very happy with a
Wait, that's not a-
coyote.
What is he talking about? Look at
This
those
is your
fenders.
level of non-intensity.
I'm talking about the
This
engine. I'm talking about the engine. I want a coyote, or even just a 5-liter crate motor with a Tremec 6-speed, and it would be a resto mod, and it would look like this. I'd want the cue ball shifter. I want it to look old school, but with everything new. And my base instead of the old one was the Fox body because it's my era that I grew up in. I just have always liked the Fox body Mustang.
And listeners,
But you-
viewers, if Steve, if you said it, I may have missed it because I was so shocked by that first photograph. It's just unbelievable looking. You chose the notchback and not the fastback. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people would have like naturally thought, oh, it's a fastback. The notchback just looks killer on
Yeah.
this build.
This is my choice. This is my fantasy. And of course, we all have different vehicles. So this is kind of cool to see what everyone else's was.
Yeah.
But you sent me a YouTube video. It wasn't who you said there's a YouTube video of the guy driving this car up in California through the canyon. You sent it to me, Steve-O.
I know.
Yeah, it's a great video.
Yeah. So there you go. I skipped over something I wanted to touch on quickly, and that is that in my career writing about and reviewing cars, I did drive some pretty cool Mustang press cars. I'll go through them quickly. The first one I actually call Stefan in the middle. This is a 2004 Mach 1. There you go. The one I was driving was Grabber Blue, but I called them from Laguna Seca, and I've said, "Hey, I'm driving this. I'm driving this Mach 1 at Laguna Seca." So obviously, if you can drive a manual transmission Mach 1 at Laguna Seca, that's pretty cool. There was a 2015 Mustang GT manual, and the reason I picked this is the first one with the independent rear suspension. This is the first Mustang with an independent rear suspension in the world. It's the first time it ever happened. It was always a live axle.
That is
And-
worth noting because as a bit of a Europhile, I'm telling you, the longer they stayed with the live axle, I don't care how many multi-links they put in it. It was like,
Yeah.
ode to the drag racers. Good for you that you're still making that. However, Ford had the technology for quite some time. When this came out, it opened my eyes. I think
Yeah,
that's
they had it on one of the SVTs had the independent rear suspension.
I think, yeah, that's right.
Or the Cobra R maybe.
Yeah,
99-ish.
Yeah, it might have been the R, but it wasn't like mainstream. And this is the first one where all the Mustangs were independent rear suspension. So that was notable. And I did drive a
But I
red.
notably left out of in the history of the Mustangs. I forgot to mention that, which was a key thing.
Yeah, but again, you could spend a whole hour just
Yeah.
or 2 hours. You could spend all day on this. I drove a 2018 GT350, which I absolutely love. This is nasty. Stefan, you drove one. You know what I'm talking about. This is a
Yeah.
nasty car. It is loud. It is obnoxious. It is.
You
hard
don't want to go
riding.
across country in it.
No, it
It'll
is.
beat you to death.
Your neighbors are going to hate you every time you leave early in the morning. This is a nasty car, but oh my gosh, it's great. But it's nasty. And then I drove a 2019 Bullet in Shadow Black. This was the Highland Green here. My press car was Shadow Black. And the only reason I mention it, we talked a lot about the Bullet, but I drove this Bullet Mustang 6-speed press car in San Francisco. So
that's
that was
cool.
that
That's
was really cool. That was my most memorable one. And to finish up, I really wanted us to configure a new Mustang and say, okay, we can get any Mustang we want. This is one we're going to have for 5 years or something. And let's just configure one and talk about it, because this is where Mustang is today. I think Mustang, Stefan, you touched on this. Mustang is in a very good place. Its competitors are gone. It continues to have a V8. It has a strong following, and it is a good car. I would happily own one of these today. So
I would
yeah,
happily own a Mustang as well, and I like that we're about to put one in our garage. Mine will be relatively quick. Steph, I
yours,
don't,
yeah.
All right.
yeah, mine is in your inbox, and mine will also be quick because
There it is.
I just jumped
Wow.
on the site and I went straight for the dark horse. I mean, there was not even another one I looked at, not another consideration. I guess this would be, unless Steph is going to tell me I'm a little off here, kind of like a modern Bullet version, a little step down in its overtness. This particular one is called Vapor Blue.
This is not, the Bullet has subtlety. This has no subtlety.
It's really not subtle. All I did was remove the stripes. I would sell the rear spoiler to somebody who wanted it, somebody like Stefan. I would
Yeah.
also I would be the only person in America, and I know I'll probably get a little hate on this. I can't do black wheels. Steve, your car looked awesome with the black wheels. I just can't do it. I would paint my carbon fiber wheels aluminum silver because they look fantastic, and they disappear in this photo on the from the Ford site. But that's my pick of the litter right there for a brand new Mustang.
Well, I got to say, Adams, you do have quite good taste, because when I configured mine, lo and behold, here we go. It was, oh, that's your picture. Well, so I did the same thing.
Okay.
Wow.
I
All right.
picked.
I must have
actually,
good taste.
Ah,
I
didn't
wanted to
even
pull up
know it.
my internet. I had it. I've got it loaded up here somewhere, but it didn't. It's not loading up.
Now you probably, as you're looking
But-
for that, you probably went down to the option list. I picked a couple of exhaust options, and there wasn't a
Yeah.
whole lot else to do.
Yeah, I don't know why it's I can't get. But I pulled up the Mustang Dark Horse in the same color as you.
Interesting.
I would delete, same thing. I would delete all the striping,
Yeah.
the coloring. I would delete the spoiler in the back. I would do the standard seats. I would not go with the Recaro seats. I'd
Yeah.
go with the power seats. They're much better. And then I would not get the performance driving package, which is the upgraded suspension like a GT350. I would stick with the Magna Ride,
Okay.
which my car has. And then with that, you get the electronic control exhaust. And that's how I would configure mine.
are you
But I
allowed
would
to
change
delete
the
that?
wheels as well.
Are you allowed to delete the spoiler?
I don't know if you can, but I would find every way that I could, every possible way to delete that. And I'd have to fill the holes and paint it.
I missed. What did you say about the wheels? You would leave them black, or you would?
Oh no, I'd have to get different wheels. I'm with you, Adams. I don't like the black wheels.
Because they're fantastic looking wheels. They just need to have a little ability to see them.
Yes.
And what's the color?
It's called
Vapor Blue. Okay.
Vapor Blue.
Yeah.
Vapor Blue Metallic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I deliberately did not get the Dark Horse because I wanted this to be a daily driver, and the Dark Horse is just so over the top. And I think that even if you delete the stripes and stuff like that, you're still going to get tickets. Now, before you guys say, I'm going to say what you're thinking. Hey, dude, you got a Grabber Blue 5-liter Mustang. What the hell? You're getting tickets too. I know. I wanted a regular 5-liter Mustang. And I did want Grabber Blue because it's historic. I guess if I were really going to get one, I probably would have gotten gray or silver. But I like the Grabber Blue. And
every time I see a
standard-
Mustang go by in Grabber Blue, I smile. It's
yeah.
it's like seeing a what's that? A green Challenger, or is it the Charger?
Lime green.
lime green, yeah, limelight or something. And
Every time I see those, I just puts a smile on my face, because it pulls back its history in a color on the same car that's been doing it for a long time.
And I believe that color might be called Sublime.
That's right. Sublime. That's
Yeah.
they always said there's
They had fun
option.
names.
Yeah. I think Limelight was Plymouth and Sublime
Yeah.
was Dodge or something like that.
You're right.
But I like Rebel Blue. Yeah, it makes me smile too, Stefan. I would get the black wheels. I actually like it with this color. And a 6-speed, 5-liter. I'm happy. I don't need the dark horse. I don't need the extra power. This would make
You
me,
never have enough power.
it would make me smile.
Oh yeah, it's a great cruiser. I tell you,
Wait, did the guy who just said who needs more power? Are you the same one who picked the nitrous oxide injected Fox body with the punched out fenders? Is that the same guy?
I would deactivate the nitrous. I don't need nitrous. But
Okay.
I've got a crate motor with plenty of power. Sure. But
Yeah.
the dream car, that Fox body that I had, it's going to be like your dream cars, right? Your fantasy cars, those are so nice and special and different. You're not driving them every day.
Yeah.
This is one I'm driving it every single day.
I mean, it would be pretty cool to have the Gone in 60 Seconds Eleanor Go Baby Go switch, up there on to turn the nitrous on. I always loved that when he flipped the Go Baby Go and turned.
That was the best thing about the Eleanor Mustang, but we'll save that for another episode.
Well, that brings us to the end. I think we gave Ford and Mustang a great party.
I would say so. I have to agree, 100%.
And deservedly so.
All right, Stefan, close us out.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, tuning in. If you're watching or if you're just listening, remember like, subscribe, hit the bell if you're on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next week.